Code 16 has a lot of targets and it's very wide, and most of them actually is like intertwined with other SDGs goals. It's really long. It's like 12 targets. But I'm just going to focus on this 7 targets, and I group them into 3 groups. So the first group I will talk about is this, target 16.5 and 16.6, which is corruption and transparency. So this is the data from our own data, it's the World Bank data. So this is so-called the Corruption Perception Index. It's an index that is based on surveys done on people, and as well as target the expert assessments. So through like this is it. True corruption can never be measured accurately because most corruption are not yet found. So for most countries, some data they are not even available for corruption. This is all available because it's based on surveys. So 0 means very high perception of corruption in their country, and 100 being the least. So we can see that people around the world think that their country is very corrupted, if we look at the data like this. And one interesting thing is that this is Japan. Japan is around 70 or 80. But then if you look at the next data set, which is the rating of perceived corruption in the public sector, as well as this one, share of people who thinks that political parties are very corrupted. Actually, Japan suddenly rises to like 80 or 90%. I think that's because a lot of scandals happening in Japan nowadays. And if we look at this data set, we realize that actually a lot of developed countries are actually being perceived as being more corrupted than in developing countries, which I find is a really interesting trend. And I want to talk about Singapore. Singapore is generally considered to be a very low corruption country because we are so small. It's like really hard to have any corruption. But in recent years, there are many scandals in Singapore as well that have highlighted how the bribery and corruption can actually take place even if a country is just really small. So we have, I put a few cases here. These are town councils are like the local government in like a single prefecture. But because we are so small, we are just a town, so it's a council rather than a government. And recently, a lot of town councils are being checked, and they realize that there's actually a lot of things going on behind the town councils. The managers are taking money away from public funds, and this is quite famous. This this Keppel shipyard bribe. This is a very famous thing. I think most people will know, I don't know. But this is international bribery where the Keppel shipyard, which is a Singapore-owned, state-owned company, they tried to bribe a Brazilian government and a Brazilian company. So it resulted in a very big distrust in the government in Singapore. And in terms of transparency, Singapore is, I realize it's quite bad because Singapore's government is very top-down, because out of 89 parliament seats we have in the government, the ruling party, which is the People Action Party, controls 83 out of 89, And of 9 political parties, only 2 are being elected into the government. So mostly the decision makings behind the scenes are being done by the ruling party, and they are not really transparent at all about their decision making, even though Singapore is considered to be one of the more developed country in Southeast Asia, but our transparency of the government's decision making is much less than other ASEAN countries. And I find that when this kind of situation happens, when a single political party holds power, corruption is very likely to happen because no one is there to check them if they don't check themselves. So another thing is because of them being very powerful, in the previous election that happened 5 years ago in 2015, one opposition party actually won a constitution. So they took 6 seats out of the 89. But then what they realized was that the town council that they took over, this Aljunied Hougang town council, which previously belonged to the People's Action Party, they removed its computer system, so